Hi guys, Jessica here from the Healing Hands Duo. Just quickly wanted to jump on here and let you guys know about an upcoming special that's going to be held with all of our Blue Shield products, and this starts at 12:01 actually on Thanksgiving Day, and it's going to be for all products that are in stock, and you're going to be getting 15% off. If you guys use the link in my bio, I'll put it there. You have to use Healing Hands. I believe it's Healing Hands. I do have this on my website, which is the healinghandsduo.com. If you use that code there, they'll apply 15% to your entire order upon checkout. So again, guys, if you're interested in EMF protection devices, this is the one that I primarily recommend for protection against all EMF, including 5G. Again, Kevin and I always, when we go out and we do assessments on people's homes, we always tell people to eliminate as much of the EMF from your life as possible and block some of it if necessary in your home. But if you can't get around to doing all that, then we definitely recommend that in conjunction with doing that, people also purchase a Blue Shield product in order to protect themselves when they're out and about, as well as their home and their family. So again, guys, I will link to that in my bio so you can check that out. The other thing is, there was a couple people that commented on one of my last videos, and one person actually said something. A lot of people were asking us about the vaccinations, that I was mentioning that they were going to contain nanoparticles and why and what these nanoparticles will do to us. I am going to get into that in maybe another video as to what I've read about what these nanoparticles are in particular are capable of doing within the body once they're implemented into the body. I will get into that, but I want to keep that separate from this video. However, I do, and then I had somebody else who said, you know, there's no way that any radiation other than the radiation that's created by the sun can harm people. That is crazy, because we have things like radiation that comes off of things like ionizing radiation that comes off of things like x-rays and nuclear power and stuff like that. So no, there is radiation on this planet that can damage people. And the problem with that is that our guidelines are about 25 years overdue for an upgrade, and they were very, very manipulated, again, with corruption and collusion from a bunch of companies and a bunch of, I'll post this. I did a blog post about this, and it includes the entire article on that, as well as all the studies about the health effects of non-ionizing radiation, which is the radiation that comes off of things like wireless devices. Even we're talking about dirty electricity, the radiation that comes off of the 60 hertz system from your wiring in your home. We're talking about the radiation that comes off of plasma TVs. We're talking about the radiation that comes off of all of these wireless connections, smart devices, and all that. There is plenty of scientific evidence to support the fact that and proof at this point, to be honest, to support the fact that this does cause biological harm. And when I say biological harm, there's been studies to show that it damages not only human cells, causes calcium channel disruptions, and then in turn it causes rouleau formations on the red blood cells, which in turn then can cause issues with oxygenation, and I believe it destructures the water intercellularly within our body, which is important for our cells to be healthy, to be well hydrated. So there is plenty of information out there now to prove this, and Canadians for Safe Technology, they talk about this quite a bit, and as well as the building biologists, which is what my husband kind of studied under to be an EMF specialist. The other thing is, there is currently a lawsuit in effect against the FCC, which stands for the Federal Communications Commission. They were sued earlier this year, and I'm just going to read this because this came through from my affiliate, because they're working with this as well to try and kind of promote this, obviously. And it says, if you haven't read our most recent article, you may have been surprised to learn that the Federal Communication Commission, FCC, was sued earlier this year for their refusal to update their 25-year-old wireless exposure health guidelines. These guidelines, I want you guys to understand where these guidelines came from. Again, these guidelines were created by people who had a vested interest in the telecommunication industries, as well as military. I've included that information on this last blog post in a PDF. If you scroll all the way to the bottom, you can take a look at all of that and how that came to fruition. You can also find a link to all the studies that have been done on the damaging effects of EMF, as well as various different videos that I've done, as well as videos that other people have done, a link back to the building biologist codes and all that, so that you guys can really start to educate yourself about the dangers of EMF and why I truly believe, while this whole situation with this virus is not entirely caused by the radiation of that, just know that every toxic exposure to the body, as I had mentioned in another video, damages the terrain of the body, meaning the body is overburdened by blue light, the body is overburdened by radiation, the body's overburdened by pesticides, herbicides on our foods, genetically modified foods that are created in labs. The body is overburdened by the toxic chemicals that you put on your skin. The body is overburdened by various things. Like, again, guys, like when you really want to increase and take care of the body, you need to start thinking of the body. Sorry, the other one was the body is also damaged by even hormones that are created through stress and fear. So when you really want to look to increase the immune system and the terrain of the body to prevent illness, and by illness I mean all viruses, bacterial and parasitic infections, you need to ensure that the body is functioning optimally to ward off any type of illness or infection. So I am a strong believer in this because, like I've said before, I've had Lyme disease and I was terrified to go out in public and to be around even nature because I was afraid that I was going to get bit by a tick again and get an infection all over again. And I realized I couldn't live like that, and that fear in itself was creating unnecessary stress on my immune system, which is probably causing cortisol issues, which then has issues with, inflammation and obviously trying to fall asleep and anxiety, which are all very detrimental for your health. So the reason why I'm kind of mentioning that is because somebody asked me in my last video, and again, I want to either do an entire video dedicated to this question or I want to do a blog post, because somebody said, well, they understand COVID is very real and it is detrimental for some people. They want to stay protected, but they don't agree with all these draconian rules and regulations that are being placed upon us. So what was it that I was mentioning, and what did it look like to me when I said in my last video, we need to meet somewhere in the middle? I do want to touch base on that, because again, I think number one, what we need to do is we need to bring certain things back into perspective about the risks that we're taking every day. Like, the risks that you're taking, the probability of dying from anything is, your chance of dying from anything is 50-50, really. So we need to put that back into perspective of what your chances of are dying from something like COVID, especially if you've had somebody close to you who's struggled with COVID and has either passed from COVID or was very sick. I think what we need to do is we need to take this back to the drawing board. We need to release the fear and the misinformation, and we need to empower people with things that they can do to take back their own lives. This means, of course, taking care of the mind, body, and soul in order to rebuild the body, not only the body, but the mind and the soul, to really take your power back. I think that would be number one, what we need to do. And that's why I want to kind of do a video about that, since I kind of, most of my channel, as well as my YouTube channel, is all about health and wellness and how to regain your health from a very sickly state. Because like I've said before, my husband and I were diagnosed with some of the most severe infections and co-infections, and we were both diagnosed with some extreme illnesses that didn't look like they had a great prognosis. Like, my husband was told that he would be in a wheelchair, unable to feed himself, unable to see, he was losing his vision, unable to walk, and unable to basically have any bodily functions within 2 years. And that was over 8 years ago now, and my husband is doing very, very well despite what the doctors told us would happen to him. And for myself personally, if you would have saw me back in 2016, I was completely debilitated. I was bedbound for several months. I wasn't able, at one point I couldn't walk anymore because the edema was so bad in my legs, and these were all because of our infections. So we have literally gone from a place of fear, of course, and you go through these different cycles where you start to feel, in the beginning you feel fear, and then you just feel anger, and then you get to a point where you just surrender to the illness. And I think both of us did get to that place where we were just ready to go, like we were ready to die. I know back in 2016, I remember specifically laying in bed one night and praying to God to not really save me anymore at that point, because I had done that the whole year. But at this point, I was just praying to God to literally take my pain away. And if that meant dying, then I was ready to go. I think when I made that, first of all, I had a very profound vision that happened that night, did that. And I remember going to bed that night and telling my husband that I didn't think I was going to make it through that night, because things had been getting really, really bad. And a lot of people were very concerned for my well-being at that point. Just because, like I said, my body was in full malnourishment, and I had been in that state for almost a year. So it didn't look like I was getting better. And most people that saw me, if I went out in public, most people thought I was struggling with a very severe case of cancer. So anyway, the point of this story is, and the moral of the story is, you get to a place where you just surrender to everything. And in a way, it was very liberating for me, because I wasn't at that moment afraid to die anymore. And I think that's where I started to build a lot of my strength. And I remember also in that prayer that I asked God if he could pull me through this moment, that I would dedicate the rest of my life to trying to help other people. So there were a few negative Nancy's on my last video that said, you know, who is this bee and what the hell is she talking about? Don't trust people on the internet. Again, I'm not telling you to trust or believe in everything that I'm saying. All I'm telling you to do is to do your own research and to empower yourself. Stop leaving all of your decisions and all your power and all of the possibilities of what's going to happen for your life in the hands of either politics or scientists or anything like that. Because I found when I did that many, many years ago, thinking that the government was going to somehow support people with Lyme disease, I found out very early on that I was going to become very disappointed with that, and realize that they weren't out to help us. Even in Canada here, we have OHIP. Half of the treatments that I had to do to get well again weren't even covered by that. I had to pay for all of that out of pocket. The other thing was, I went back and forth, my husband and I went back and forth to, honestly, I would say at least 100 different specialists, trying to figure out what was wrong and to try and to really regain our health. And a lot of them didn't give us a lot of hope, and they basically told us, this is the way that it is, and you're going to be like this for the rest of your life. Again, these are all things that I talk about on my channel. So when people are saying, you know, I'm only out to make money, or I'm out to sway people in the wrong direction due to misinformation, I really have nothing to gain from this, other than the fact that I literally made a promise to God to try and help other people. So take it as you will. You could, again, I'm not asking you to blindly follow all the things that I'm saying and, you know, trust everything I'm saying. What I am doing is telling you to take this information as you would from multiple different sources. Just don't depend on the media alone, or the government alone, or your doctor alone. You know, do your own research and come to your own conclusions. Again, just to get back to the EMF stuff, I do want to post to that last blog. I'll do that again. I'll post to that last blog in my bio. And I just wanted to let you guys know that the FCC is currently being sued. They're not being just sued for that either. They're being sued for various different corruptions that have been found in their organization, just like a bunch of other people are being sued right now. So again, guys, I will post all of that so you can educate yourself, or you can take a look at this stuff and come to your own conclusion. And again, just wanted to put that out there, because if you guys have been saving up for Blue Shield, because I understand that these things could all be costly, and of course we're all struggling right now because of all these closures, this would be the time to take advantage of it, because they are having a 15% off their entire line when you place an order by the 30th. And to those two people that sent me the questions about what I would do to meet somewhere in the middle, I'm definitely going to get back to those questions, because I think your concerns and your questions were very, very valid, and I truly appreciate you, because the way that you asked those questions was not in any way or any means to degrade me or be nasty. And that's the problem. A lot of people just want to be nasty now because of all this cognitive dissonance. Like, if it's something that you haven't heard of before, a lot of people are just refusing to listen to it because it doesn't align with their own belief systems. And I think in that sense, a lot of us, again, once all of this stuff started, even though I've known about some of these agendas for 20 years, once a lot of this stuff started, and I found myself also struggling with cognitive dissonance, that I just didn't want to believe that some of these terrible things could be happening in our world. But what I've learned very quickly is that when you drop the belief systems and you do your own research, you can go at this from a different perspective, with an open mind and an open heart to receiving information. And that way you know, when you confront, like, first of all, we also have to realize that everyone and anyone that you come into contact with is here to also increase your awareness, your consciousness, and of course to teach you something new. So you can either resist that information, or you could listen to that person, come to your own conclusions, and start a civil conversation with the person, or a debate. You don't have to agree with everything that that person's saying, but constantly resisting and throwing insults at that person is not going to accomplish anything either. So I think I really appreciated your comment. It sounded like, you know, you may not agree with me on certain things, and you may agree with me on some other things. And actually, I just had this conversation in one of my groups a few weeks ago, and we also we realized in even my small group that not all of us agreed on everything, but we could still be in the same vicinity and in the same presence and still appreciate each other's opinions. And I think that's where we need to go in the future. Everybody wants to be this new godhead that's going to bring all the information to the forefront, and they know everything. Like, if you talk to people these days, apparently they know everything about everything, and everybody's a professional on everything that's happening in the world, even if they've never even had that experience themselves. And again, I don't like to listen to people who have learned all of their, I like to call it book smarts, from a book and from going to school. Again, guys, my husband and I have been there. We've gone to college, universities, we've done tons of courses and stuff like that. Most of the information that I pull and I respect from other people comes from their own personal experiences. And I think this is where the world needs to go in the future. We need to stop listening to people who say and claim to know everything, but unless something's really been brought into your experience and into your awareness and you've actually lived through it, it's really hard to understand the full impact of how you would apply this stuff in the real world. I think I'm gonna leave it at that, because this is gonna get, I don't want this to get too long. But anyway, just wanted to jump on here. If you're interested in Blue Shield, take advantage. Starts on the 26th, I believe, it starts on Thanksgiving Day at 12:01, and it goes until midnight, November 30th. If you're interested in that blog post though, maybe I'll include that in the bio, and then from there you'll be able to click through to my links for European, American, as well as the Canadian links. And at least there you'll find all the studies on EMF, so that if people are coming to you, you can educate yourself, and then you could pass this information along to them to show them when they're like, you know, non-ionizing radiation does not cause biological harm. You can say to them, here are all the studies that have been done, here are how the standards came to be, and here are a couple of different companies and some information that you could look at. Okay guys, I think that's it, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Bye.